I know what you mean. I know poverty. I've walked downtown in the slums. I've seen plenty of inequality. This is not the time to relate focusing on women's suffrage. This is the time to bond together as a country. We've got bigger battles to fight right now. And I agree that something should be done. I know what shouldn't be done for later.
Dear legislators in the Congress, I do hereby request a meeting for the progressive movement of women's suffrage in America. Though I do know you have other matters on your hands and an amendment seems daunting, but this is a relevant and vital issue. Thank you for your support. Sincerely yours, Alice Paul. No, too sweet. Dear deaf congressmen and incompetent legislators on the floor, America is in dire need of reform with the issues of women's suffrage. We, the mothers and the daughters of America, are disgusted by your... Can you get that?
Yeah, sure.
Perhaps I should start another. We, the women of America, tell you that America is not a democracy. 20 million women are denied the right to vote.
That sounds pretty good, for once. It's not too harsh. Anyways, I've got some bad news. NASA refuses to fund us during Wilson's inauguration. To quote, "The National Women's Suffrage Association denies a request for sponsorship. The inauguration ceremony of our 20th president cannot be interrupted by a petty little women's parade. Wilson's support is needed, thus the women's suffrage march must be put off under the best wishes of NASA."
We must disregard their unfair judgment. We need action. I say let's do it. How is an amendment ever going to be passed if we don't stay to our commitment? Come on, Lucy, it's a perfect plan, perfect timing. Just think of it, all the press coverage, it's perfect.
But what's going to happen if we defy NASA? You know I'm going to support you in whatever we do. I'm just trying to think of the long-term outcome.
Yes, and the long-term outcome is women's suffrage. Come on, Lucy.
Okay, the march is on. However, there is one more issue.
What is it now?
I got another phone call concerning African American women in the march. And they say they refuse to walk at the back. If we want their support, they have to walk next to us.
But they were going to be a large percentage of the march. Without them, we lose a lot of support.
Exactly. You know, Alice, we're just being as bad as them if we deny freedom to everyone.
We can't lose the support of the South, though. We need them. I suppose we'll just have to wait and see for tomorrow. Well, we did it. Front page news right here.
Whoa, look at that. Not too shabby. It's amazing how a few punches can really take the world by storm. Oh, and look, we even got more coverage than Wilson's inauguration. If only 100 people didn't end up in the hospital.
Yeah, in hindsight, we probably should have avoided that. But look where it got us. And now we must plan our next move. We'll only have this attention for so much longer. And there's only one place left.
Alice?
Yes, Lucy?
The White House it is.
This just in, folks. These great and mighty United States will be venturing through a dark time now. We are at war, my fellow citizens. Our dear President Woodrow Wilson about to make a public statement that will be broadcasted to you.
The pride of a nation did us very well in keeping us out of the war these past few years. However, I cannot deny that the time for action, and decisive action at that, is at hand. The present German submarine warfare against commerce is warfare against all nations. We are accepting this challenge. The world must be made safe for democracy. I ask of you, dear citizens, to please respect the war efforts and be patriotic in all aspects of life. This is not a time to divide into conflicting groups. Let us unite and spread our prosperity and freedom to all.
Yes, Mr. President, this is a time of great need. Citizens, wave your flags and be patriotic this dark night. Know your place in American society. Perhaps this isn't a time to fight with your neighbor over who is right or wrong. There are greater issues at hand.
Place all your other concerns in a place far away from now, because America needs all the support it can get. Men, women, and children, silence your complaints. That's all for the evening. Good night, and God bless.
Honest to God.
Tell me what is right, and I will fight for it.
I demand to receive my full rights and an explanation for this arrest.
What about the woman in jail?
Hey, aren't any of you listening?
Any other questions?
Whatever happened to freedom of speech?
And the right to assemble.
Was ist so fließend behind Suffrage, Mr. President?
Obstruction of traffic.
What? Obstruction of... How can that even be allowed? There weren't even any cars on the road that day.
Ridiculous, absolutely absurd. I suppose part of it is bitterness about the war. We wouldn't want the war to be of equal importance to women now, would we?
A hunger strike. That's it. That way, Wilson can't deny us any longer. And if he lets us die, then the whole country will be in an uproar.
Breaking news, citizens. WPA women suffragists have been reported as being abused during their stay in prison. Somehow a local newspaper got a tip that led to the discovery. After commencing a hunger strike, Alice Paul was isolated and sent to the mental penitentiary to undergo tests. In fact, the record reveals that her bruises were from a combination of physical abuse from the guards as well as grotesque force feeding to cover up the hunger strike. There have been increased public outcries for their release following a mass protest in the prison. One of the interviewed prisoners told a reporter that during the first meal after Paul was released from the penitentiary, all the inmates pushed away their bowls of grub and posed a mass hunger strike. But the question is, will these women get the justice they deserve? Mr. President, are you there?
The ear of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. I hear the cries of the innocent, the women, as they are suffering in our jails, and their unfair sentences. Their rights are no less worthy than those of men, yet they must continue to fight to be our equals in the eyes of democracy. The history of liberty is a history of resistance. The time for action is now. These women have already shown that. Let us repay our debt. I will grant these fighters amnesty. I want the nation they meet outside the jail to be one where the door of democracy swings both for men and for women of this great land. Freedom must ring for the other half of the United States of America.